Dozens of European officials met in the Ukrainian city of Lviv on Friday to endorse the creation of a special tribunal to prosecute Russian officials accused of war crimes in Ukraine. According to Associated Press, standing alongside top Ukrainian government officials in Lviv, European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said the tribunal's launch will mean that nobody can be left unpunished for the crimes committed. Russian authorities have fiercely denied allegations of war crimes. Once established, the tribunal will focus on prosecuting Russian leaders most responsible for the full-scale invasion of Ukraine that began in 2022. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Adnrii Sybiha also announced the EU's intention to allocate almost €1.9 billion for military support to Ukraine. Roughly €1 billion of the total will be used to purchase weapons according to the so-called Danish model, directly from Ukrainian manufacturers.
We take very decisive steps towards justice for Ukraine. After this meeting, we will provide our final political endorsements to establish a special tribunal for the crime of aggression. And this tribunal will ensure that those most responsible for the aggression against Ukraine are held accountable. Every inch of Russia's war has been documented. We are living in an area of information. It has been documented, and there is no space for impunity. Russia's aggression cannot go unpunished, and therefore establishing this tribunal is extremely important.
Отже, можемо розпочинати, пане прем'єр-міністр.
Ми неухильно наближаємося до старту роботи спецтрибуналу для вищих посадових осіб Росії, які віддавали злочинні накази. Країни коаліції провели велику юридичну підготовку. Сьогодні буде прийняте політичне рішення про схвалення роботи цих юридичних команд. Сам процес формування і запуску спеціального трибуналу в межах Ради Європи розпочнеться незабаром. Винні в злочині агресії обов'язково будуть покарані.
Ми вдячні Європейському Союзу за дотримання домовленостей та спрямування другого траншу прибутків із заморожених російських активів на посилення обороноздатності України. По-друге, сьогодні це вже звучало, ми також підписали контракти з 4 державами – Данія, Нідерланди, Франція, Італія – на суму близько €1 мільярда. Ці кошти будуть спрямовані на закупівлю озброєння в українських виробників. Очікуємо на швидку імплементацію, щоб українські захисники на передовій отримали вироблену зброю вже в найближчі місяці.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and his wife on Thursday placed a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier in Kiev as his country marked the day of remembrance and victory over Nazism in the Second World War. According to Associated Press, they were joined at the somber ceremony by Ukrainian officials and representatives of several foreign diplomatic missions. On social media, the president wrote that as Europe marked the defeat of the Nazis, it must be remembered that Ukrainians made their great contribution to that victory. They stopped a global evil with their own blood. And we will not surrender this memory to a new, Russian Nazism, just as we will not surrender our present to it, he added. In his statement, Zelensky also made a dig at Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is hosting world leaders in Moscow for the annual Victory Day military parade in Red Square. Victory and true remembrance are not with those who hold parades, but with those on whose side the truth is, he wrote.
at first glance. 9th of May parade should cheer up the Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin, but there are 3 other big factors that will determine his behavior in 2025. Political philosopher, lecturer at Charles University in Prague, and head of the Free Russia Institute, Alexander Morzov, spoke about this in an interview with Glavred. According to him, May 9 will not allow Putin to feel stronger. But the dictator will be influenced by the protracted fall in oil prices, which is already being recorded around the world. It is even noticeable that the Russian political and military elite understands that the price will be able to hold out for some time at a level slightly above $45 per barrel, but not higher. The second important factor in 2025 is that the Kremlin is preparing, and not without reason, for Tauruses to be added to the economic sanctions. Since the ceasefire has failed, Moscow expects sanctions to be expanded in 2025. First of all, against the tanker fleet, against the remaining banks that are still operating, as well as the strengthening of secondary sanctions, which Trump has already announced. This will most likely be implemented, but one more step will most likely be added to the tightening of sanctions. Kiev will receive the missiles and ranges that it has long been asking for, Morzov noted. Ukraine is already demonstrating that providing more powerful weapons can be very effective, as demonstrated by highly effective strikes on Russian military installations and on installations associated with military production or storage facilities. The third factor of 2025 is that despite May 9 and the visits of some deputy ministers, foreign ministers, and there will be few top officials, all this will quickly pass, and the Kremlin will have to deal with the deterioration of relations with the countries of its immediate circle, the political philosopher explained. This is already partially evident from the ban on holding the Immortal Regiment in Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. Therefore, the situation for the Kremlin will continue to worsen. In addition, it should be noted that the entire second half of 2025 will be filled with important international events. This includes the summer NATO summit in The Hague and the G20 meeting in November. Before the summit in The Hague, the Kremlin will already face a new wave of reaction from the United States. Therefore, I think that the second half of 2025 will be marked by confrontation between Moscow and Washington, Morzov concluded.